this computer. There we go. Thank you. There's the other ones that I have set up through Teams that automatically record. So this is now recording. So great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Brian Haley. I am the host of Civil Chat here. On my left or right or down below or wherever he happens to be is Brian Mackey. So he's going to be helping out today. And I want you all to thank Brian Mackey so very much because he is actually coming to us live from Holden Beach, North Carolina, where he and his family are on vacation. That's the Intercoastal Waterway right there, I believe, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So he's taking a time out of his vacation to help us out here. So I appreciate that, Brian. This is your first time to Civil Chat. I want to welcome you all. If you haven't been here before, the way this works is you ask questions and I answer them, or at least I do my best to answer them. Ask questions. This is a session that is driven by y'all. If you don't ask questions, we'll just talk about North Carolina because my parents have a home not too far from where they are right now. So yeah, make sure you ask questions. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I always like to start off by showing something. Perhaps it'll get some conversation started. Maybe we'll talk about this more detail further in, but don't think that this is all you can talk about. Ask questions about anything you want. There's nothing off limits. If it's something inappropriate, I'll just ignore it, but you can ask it. I don't care. So recently, I got a DEM file from somebody and I was asked to create a surface from this thing. And so I did. And I went in and I was taking a look at this thing. And if we take a look at the properties of this surface under the statistics tab, you can see this file is huge. The number of points in this thing is just off the chart. You can see how long it's taking just to switch over to the statistics tab. So as you can see, there's 2,378,350. I'm sorry, there's 23,783,515 points in this surface. And this is a trimmed down section of the bigger surface that was sent to me. And this is unusable in Civil 3D. It might work fine in other programs, but it has a tendency to really bog down Civil 3D. And so what I had done is I'd gone in and I had cut it up into multiple tiled sections on it. And I'd created different surfaces using the create crop surfaces. And I was going to, if we need, this section here, you might bring in 2, maybe 4 surfaces, right? And then you would have just those surfaces in the drawing. And I made them all so that they were less than 1,000,000 points each. And that way you don't have the silly MMS files that are going on with them, right? If you're not familiar with an MMS file, if you get points upwards of 1,000,000 points or so, an AutoCAD object can't hold all that data. So it starts writing to an external file and it's called a .mms file. And it's just really annoying. And so I created and I ended up with like 27 different surfaces. And I got to think about that. It's like, this is crazy. There's got to be something else I can do. And then I remembered that we can simplify a surface. And I'm like, yeah, we could simplify the surface, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose too much data, too much, information in here. But I decided to try it anyways. And so I simplified the surface. All right. And when I did this, well, how many points did I? So I wanted to keep this less than 1,000,000 points. So if I bring up my calculator here, and let's see, the original was what, 27 million points or so. So I did one. I guess I could have just divided by 27 million, right? I'm doing this the long way. I could have just done 1 divided by 27. Yes, I know, right? And then I subtracted 1 from that. And so I needed to remove about 96% of my points. So I went into the simplification. If you're not familiar with simplifying a surface, it's an edit. So if you come down to edits, right click on edits, there's an option to simplify the surface. I did the edge contraction, and then I did the entire surface. And then I took this down to whatever that was, which was, of course, it's not, did I clear it out? Whatever that was, 96% or something like that, right? And I did that, and this new surface, when I go into the statistics, you can see how much faster this goes, is 952,000 points, which is small enough that it doesn't need the MMS file. I was like, that's great. But is it, how much did we lose on this? And so what I did is I went in and I created a volume surface, and I did a volume calculation between these two surfaces, the original surface and the simplified surface. Now, I do not recommend creating a volume surface between surfaces this large. In fact, I tried this many times to save it in the drawing, and every time I save it, the drawing, I open it up, it says, hey, this drawing needs to be recovered. And when I open up the drawing, the volume surface is gone. It just does not like this much data, but it worked while I was in it. And so I did some analysis on this, and here's the information that I got. All right, so here's the furthest off it was 1.4 feet, all right, in the positive direction and 1 foot in the negative direction. So, you know, above and below. And most likely those are like way out there on the fringes, because you can see the area was less than a square foot on that. So I'm not worried about those. In fact, if I go within 1/10 of a foot, you can see practically 100% of the surface is within 1/10 of a foot of each other. So I was like, okay, this gives me a little bit more confidence in what it is I'm doing, because, you know, you add those two together, it works out to be like 99.8% or something like that, which is practically 100%, right? And then I said, okay, but, you know, 1/10 of a foot, that could still be significant. So I went even deeper. All right. And I went into 1/10 of a foot accuracy within 1/100th of a foot increments within 500ths. And here's what I got. So as you can see, about 40% of the surface was within 100th of a foot. And, you know, almost what's that? 96% of the surface was within 500ths of a foot. And I actually, you know, copied this over here. So you can see this, these are the totals here. So within 1/10 of a foot, 99.87% of the surface was within 1/10 of a foot. 97% was within 500ths of a foot. 93% was within 400ths of a foot. And so I feel pretty confident with this simplifying option, and it just makes the surface workable. So if you're working with DEM files, my recommendation is to do this yourself, right? Don't take my word for it, because you want to make sure that what you're doing is working. But take this large DEM file that's millions and millions of points, simplify it so it's just below 1,000,000 points, and it's not 1,000,000 points. If you have 1,000,000 points, 999,999, it's still going to write up. It's somewhere just below 1,000,000 points. I don't know what the exact number is. Then you won't get that MMS file. So if you do it and you still get the MMS file, remove the simplify, do it again with an extra percentage taken out, right? And then you should be good to go.
Two
Okay.
follow-up questions to this.
Okay.
John asks, what file format was the DEM in?
This was a TIFF. So if I come in here and we look at we'll go to this one. All right, take a look at the definition here. You can see that this was let me browse for it. It was a TIFF file. So it was a GeoTIFF. I can't find it right now because I've got mapping issues, but that's beside the point. So yeah, it was just a TIFF file. I don't know where the TIFF file came from. I was just told, hey, we need a surface from this. And so that's what I did. And I did put in a data clip boundary before I put in the added the TIFF file. That brought it down from like 60 million points down to the whatever it was we saw, right? 27 million points.
We're going to follow it up with, how did you pull a spreadsheet of the data with the surface area ratio?
I didn't pull the spreadsheet. I created the spreadsheet. And so let me open up a different drawing, something that I can actually do this with in a decent time. It took me hours to create that spreadsheet just to verify for myself. Let's see. 2024 Civil 3D, Hope, Civil Tutorials, Drawings. Let's see what would be a good one. Let's do the corridor one, because I know this has multiple surfaces in it. So what I did is I created a volume surface, right? So I came up to the Analyze tab. Way to make this go away. Okay, move it. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I went over to the Analyze tab, I went to the Volumes dashboard, and I simply created a volume surface. And I use those two surfaces here, which order in that case, it didn't really matter. But if you're doing volumes, typically you want your existing ground to be the base surface. All right, and then whatever it is you're comparing against to be the comparison surface. So I'll just use a datum surface. Sure, why not? All right. And then I went into the surface properties of that volume surface. I went to the Analyze tab, and I did a range interval with datum. Right, I said, hey, I want this to be at 1 foot intervals. I ran the interval, and it shows me. Okay, this wow, there's a lot of cut in this project. Let's make this a 5 foot interval. That's a little bit better. All right. And then I created a table. So I went to the annotate tab, add tables, add surface legend table. All right, I did it for that volume surface. I'm going to do an elevations table. I want it to be dynamic, and I'll just throw it in right there. All right. Now the default table doesn't have area in it, so I just edited the table style. So I'll come down here and edit the table style. On the data properties, these are the columns that are currently in the table. So I just added a new column to it. Gave it a header. In fact, I didn't even bother giving it a header, but you probably want to, maybe this would be area square feet. All right, and then down here, if you double click in here, that's the data that's going to go into the column. And one of the options is the surface range 2D area. All right, so I just added that in. And then okay. And then those are the areas for those ranges. And so using this sort of thing, this is how I got those areas out. And then I just manually copied this data into my Excel spreadsheet.
Here's what I found.
All right.
So there's no way to export that data to an Excel spreadsheet?
Not that I'm aware of. There might be an option under. Okay, why'd you go away? It's auto saving. If I go to the toolbox, reports manager, surface report, this might do it, but I don't think it will. Let's find out. Sure.
I was giving you an HTML.
Yeah. It is. Nope. Doesn't give you the breakdowns. Like I said, I don't think there's a way to do it. Yeah, out of the box at least. There might be a program that will do it.
So as he doesn't think there's a way to do it, Brandon asked, does table export work? That's where my brain was going to some of the AutoCAD tools, just export tables.
Oh, this is in an AutoCAD table.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. There's, as far as I know, there's no export a Civil 3D table to Excel. That'd be really freaking nice though. I don't know why
it's
that's not an option.
Autodesk.wishlist.com.
Right.
I don't know what that actually is. Don't quote me on that page. And then Brian S also says he's been creating a Dynamo script to do this range interval with datum, and then uses assign colors to it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I would not try to run that on this because so for example, if I go into the surface properties here for this volume surface, so I was actually doing it by number of ranges, and I was kind of manually doing this there for a bit because, right, just to click in here to be able to click in this cell took like 5 minutes. Why? No clue. Super annoying, but just to be able to click in here, just to be able to edit it, took 5 minutes. So annoying.
And in the chat, people are saying, does Project Explorer tables export work?
Ooh. Project Explorer tables export. I don't know.
Carlos says, yep. Carlos says, yeep. I use it often. I'm assuming Carlos has an accent. Cause he types with one.
Where would I find the table in Project Explorer? I have no idea where to find the tables in Project Explorers. I mean, I have this table, but I don't care about that data. I want to get the elevation analysis table out. Anybody have any idea how to do that?
Well, I think Carlos might have been saying he uses the app that Brian S put in the chat.
Ah,
No. No way to do
Where's-
it there, but there's an app in the data to export your Civil 3D
gotcha,
tables.
gotcha. Here's the app.
Download that app.
Take a look at the app. So
John
that's-
Mayo says there is something in the wish list. It's been there for years, but nothing's happened.
you're right. There you go. How much is this? It's free. Check it out. So yeah,
Yeah. Had you known
Cool.
this, had you known this a week ago, you would have saved 2 hours on your project.
no, not this project. No, because all the time was spent changing the data. Putting that data into Excel took, a minute.
Rebecca
had a
suggested
time
Rebecca suggested in the chat that if you create a surface property set in PE, then you can create a report that you can export.
Right, but will that display the elevations? I don't know of a way to get that elevation information into property sets. Yeah, Brian's agreeing with me. I don't think there's a way to do. I would love to be shown to be wrong. I love finding out that I'm wrong. So if I'm ever wrong, just call me on it, please. Because if I find out that I'm wrong, then I can stop being wrong. And that's kind of my goal in life.
I'm gonna take that snippet of this recording and send it to your wife. So she can prove you wrong at any point in time. And also your children. Rick is also saying that in the Project Explorer, you can compare two surfaces. I just don't know if that gives you the elevations.
Compare two surfaces? How do you compare two surfaces?
All right, you're Rick. You commented, we're putting you on the spot.
There's my volume surface. See, it's this that I want to export out. It's down here. With the area. So. Yeah, Project Explorer is great. Definitely recommend it. I don't use it enough because it's new and I'm old. But yeah, it's there. You definitely should be using this. All right. Have we beat that horse to death yet?
We did it today. Everybody said, yeah, you can get points on the surface, but they're not sure about the area or the comparison.
Okay.
And 2 new questions came up during that process. So Sean asks, I am using Civil 3D 21 version. When I have several CAD drawings open, there is a day or lag time when I make a command. The command shows up in one of the open drawings that I didn't intend to use. I have to get out of the drawing, come back to it again. It's really irritating. Is this a bug in 21 version?
I don't know. The only time I've ever seen a lag in Civil 3D is if you have your properties open. I see
Don
this
Mayo
all the
says,
time.
Don Mayo is saying, yes, it is a bug. So I'm
Okay.
assuming John has seen this as well.
Yeah,
Landline switching window as
he's from Jersey.
he speaks with an, he types with an accent as well. And Chris says turning off the level of detail can help with the command line issue.
I'll have to pay attention to see if it happens with the level of detail on. So if you're
And
not
John,
familiar with level of detail, so actually, I did want to show this. So I've got, this is the original, one of the surfaces. I think this is the original surface. But I went in and I extracted the major contours from the other surface just to compare them. And so if I zoom in here, you can see this red line. That's just a polyline, right? And then you can see how close it is to my contour. So it's really ridiculously close. So I would have absolutely no problem using this simplified surface for design instead of the original surface. As you can just see, I mean, what is that distance there? That's it's less than 0.2 of a foot off. When we're talking massive, I mean, it's not like I'm using this to redesign an outlet structure for a pond, right? If I was doing that, then yeah, maybe it would be important for that. But this is a stream restoration project. I've got this stream running through here, and we're going to be doing some bank stabilization on it. There's no need for that huge surface for this kind of problem. So
the time you actually go through all the jurisdictional corrections and all the people, protesting, you're working on a stream, it's going to be 4 years later when the project happens, it will have eroded that far by then anyway.
thank you. Yeah, that's another valid point. This stream is morphologically changing all the time. So
to answer Sean's question, is that a bug in 21?
sounds
like
like it
5
is.
people who said yes, it is, but then Danny had a follow up. Is it still a bug in 23? Or it is still a bug in 23.2. So it's
Okay.
not just a problem in 21, Sean. Danny was saying he still sees it in 23.2.
But I was going to come back to that level of detail. So if I turn level of detail on, so I just type level of detail. Why is my, so this is 2024. I'm actually just in the process of setting up 2024. So currently my enable dimensions were turned off, and my dynamic input is turned off. Why is my dynamic input turned off? Well, come on. Pointer input. There we go. There we go. Okay, so level of detail. All right, so I'm going to turn level of detail on. All right, and basically what that does is it says, hey, I'm not going to display everything. And this one's actually not doing anything. But it'll only show you what you need for the surface. Maybe it's because this is a simple surface, I believe. So I'm currently displaying 10 and 50 contours. So if I change this to say 1 and 5 contours here. All right, you can see as I zoom in, I get more detail. As I zoom out, I see fewer contours. So that's level of detail. So that's what they were referring to when you heard somebody talking about maybe it's the level of detail was turned on that was causing that. If you need to turn it off, and you'll know that the level of detail is on in your drawing if you see this little symbol up here in the top left of your drawing area. So that little symbol set is your way to know that, hey, the level of detail is on. Now, why this symbol is being used and how you would know that that's what it is, I have no clue, but that's what it is. So level of detail off is the command to turn it off. Now I'll just do a regen, and there we go, back to displaying all the contours. So okay,
cool.
what else
And
we got?
Brian S said, since you're in 2024, you should put the enable multi-thread I'm assuming this is a system variable set to on. Enabled, sorry, enabled S multi-thread.
There it is. And
You missed a B.
enable
There we go.
simultaneous multi-thread, I'm guessing is what that is. So let's see, turn F1 on there for that, see what this is, and it's nothing. All right, to control whether multi-thread is enabled while setting the working folder for the data shortcuts, fix the issue. Okay, cool. So there we go.
And then Tom was going back to the export thing. He did say that you can go back to your volume surface analysis tab, select all and copy paste into Excel.
Yeah, but that doesn't give me my areas.
Just telling you what Tom said.
All right, I'm gonna have to look into this one more often. See if this is something I want to turn on for everybody in our company. Since I'm just now getting ready to deploy 2024, I might have to do that.
Brian S said that it enable DS multi-thread makes working folder sets much faster, and Mayo's like, oh, cool. So I'm assuming that's a big deal for you guys.
Nice.
Cool. So Rebecca asked the question, we are looking to move to a reference template with Civil 3D 2024. Can you talk about any tips for setting up reference template from an existing DWT file?
Setting up a reference template from an existing DWT file. I don't think there's much that you need to do. I mean, provided that you want to reference all of the data that's in your template into each of your drawings. So if you're not familiar with a reference template is, let me go over that here really quick. So I'm going to just create a brand new drawing here. That's not what I wanted. Control. Helps if you do the right control. If you hit control instead of the Windows key. So I'm going to create a drawing that has no template in it, or from no template. So this doesn't have any Civil 3D styles. It doesn't have any layers. Doesn't have any of that fun stuff in it. All right. So if I come over here to my settings tab, surface styles, you can see all it has is standard because Civil 3D needs styles. So it goes through and creates all those god awful standard styles. And then I'm going to reference in a template. Now, I haven't done this in a while. Is it on the insert tab? Or is it on the manage tab? It's probably on the manage tab. Yep, here it is. Under styles, reference. So I'm going to reference in our template. Export Civil 3D 2024 templates. DWT. There we go. So there's that, our Civil 3D template. You can have multiple templates referenced in. So maybe what you have is you have a template that you have multiple templates because you're working with multiple different clients. And I want to use these styles from this drawing and these styles from this drawing. So you can reference both of those templates in, and then down here you can come and say, hey, I want to pull those from that one and pull those from that other one, right? So that's gives you the option to pull in more, but I'm just going to do this one. Let's see. You can bring in the drawing settings, the feature settings. You can have it bring in the layers. The template has a lot of layers, apparently. All right, so you can have it bring in all the layers. Any ones that are checked on, those are ones that are required to be in there. All the other ones are optional because they're not being used, so you don't have to bring them in. And that was this, for example, C-align is coming from a style. And I don't remember what's under other resources, blocks, text styles, line types. And then you can also bring in your property sets. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is. I'll go ahead and hit OK. I'm bringing everything in from our template. All right, so now that template is referenced in. So if I come over here to say, for example, surface styles, you can see I get all of those styles from the template. The nice thing about doing it this way is if you need to make a change to one of these styles for the project, rather than going into each drawing and changing it for the project, you can change it once here, once in the reference template, and then that will propagate through all of your drawings. Just like changing an XREF propagates through all the drawings that it's referenced in, change the template, it will change all the drawings that it's referenced into as well. But this is more for styles, settings, layers, etc. Now, if I want to make a change to one of these, I'll right click on this and I'll choose edit, and I'll say, hey, I want to see the border for this one. I'll hit OK. It's going to say, wait. You're trying to edit a style that came from a reference template. What do you want to do? So there's 3 options. 1, I'm just going to cancel out of this. 2, I'm going to make a local copy. Oops, I didn't mean to click on it. I'll turn that one off. All right, I can make a local copy of the style with a unique name. And that's what I accidentally clicked on. So you can see it created a local copy of it. Or I can apply the edits for this drawing session only. I just want to see it temporarily. And then once I close the drawing and I reopen it, it's going to go back to the way it was in the reference template. All right, so that's kind of the idea behind reference templates. All right. If I then go in and I detach that reference template, I don't remember what happens to the styles. I think they all get promoted. So if I detach that reference template, and refresh this, did I not delete it? Is it not going away? And I see an OK box down here somewhere. Oh, there's the OK. I was hitting the X rather than hitting OK. That was my bad. I was looking for the OK down at the very bottom instead of in the middle. That's my bad. Yeah, so you can see all those styles go away, except for the ones that are currently being used, and those were being used because of the settings that it brought in from the reference template. So that's kind of the way reference templates work. How would you go about setting one up? I don't think there's anything really to do. I would not set up a reference template for the company, right? I would not say, hey, every drawing is going to reference the company reference template. I think that's a bad idea, because if I make a change, it's like, okay, we've got our CAD standards, and CAD standards are never set in stone. Things are getting constantly changed. It's like, oh, you know what, this particular setting in this style really sucks, and I want to make it this instead. Right now, that's going to change for every drawing that's out there. So if somebody's in the middle of publishing a sheet set, when I make that change, or that could affect things, and I don't like that idea. Now I see them being really useful for a project. I want my project to be consistent, so I can see creating a copying the company template for this particular project, and then using that as a reference template throughout all the drawings. I can see that being used, but I don't think I would want a company-wide reference template to be used personally. I don't know. Does anybody else have any thoughts on company-wide reference templates versus project reference templates?
Chris and John in the chat all said the same thing. Project-based reference templates, not company-based. One thing that Chris pointed out is because if you lose the DWG that the reference template is pointing, that all your files are pointing to, every style not in use gets removed.
Okay, yeah.
Which could be a good thing. It's like a quick way to purge something. Hey, remove it all. That way, when you submit it to us Revit users, we don't have 5 million layers in there that are being held by styles.
Yeah, we'll still give you 5 million layers.
Nah, it might drop it to
Just
4
'cause we
million.
love
It would still be nice. So when you guys set that up, let me ask this question. I was just kind of thinking of this as a non-civil user. Would you basically have your company folder? I'm assuming you guys have company folders that you basically copy that folder to a new project folder, and all of the stuff gets copied that you need.
Right.
Would that be in there? So when you copy that folder, that reference template comes, and now it's pointing to that reference template.
I don't think so. I think it needs to be a project specific decision.
Right, but oh, okay. But would you still copy a template over there? So in the event your team wants to use it, that template is already there to use? Or do you like, they decided then gotta go copy the company template to your project folder? Or that automatically be applied when IT sets up the project folder? Is asking.
Yeah, we don't, we're not currently using reference templates, but I don't think that's something that I would put into that project location because we have so many projects that don't use Civil 3D at all. All right, so for example, if I go into,
That's a valid point.
all right, if I come in here to our working folders, which is where all of our projects are, I'm just going to scroll through and I don't know, let's stop at this one here. All right, so you can see all of this gets copied in, and if I go underneath the project name, it has the 00 CAD folder, but this project might not be using CAD at all. So for example, if I go into design sheets, you see the folder's empty. You know, a few folders, and we got some text files in here, not a big deal. All right, but if I'm doing my template, all right, if I go into CAD support templates, you know, we're talking, you know, 2.7 megabytes copied into every single project that's not needed. I wouldn't do that.
I was just curious, 'cause like a lot of my clients, they don't copy a Revit file over there, but they do copy all of the supporting folder files with it, which are text files, usually, 10, 20 kilobytes, not a big deal, but
Right.
I was just asking.
Yeah. So I don't think I would do that. It's a good question though.
Okay, so we have a couple comments, one from John and one from Chris. John says all of the layers can be purged if unused. The Autodesk NCS solution is horrible, written by architects for architecture. I would have to agree with that because the purge is horrible in AutoCAD because it does not purge layers that are assigned to a style, even if there's nothing in that style. It needs to be like purge styles, then purge layers for Civil 3D.
Well, we got purge styles. We can purge styles right here.
Yes,
So
but when I
that'll just
receive,
purge the unused styles.
right, which would be fine. If there's nothing on that style, it should be able to be purged, but I don't have that tool as an architect getting the Civil 3D
Right.
file.
But I do want to point out real quick that there is nothing in this drawing, and these three styles here are all being used. And you may be thinking to yourself, what the hell? Why are these? Well, they're being used in a setting. The setting says use
Right.
it when I create a surface. So for example, if let me do that. So if I go create a surface, the default style is this style here. And so that style is being used by the settings. So it's non-purgeable.
Which is just what drives us crazy because that style.
But you don't
then
want
has-
a Civil 3D drawing. You want an AutoCAD drawing. So we should be exporting these out to AutoCAD and then purging the snot out of that drawing instead of purging the Civil 3D drawing.
Agreed.
So
Then Chris brought up a comment saying for our civil projects, we place the current template in a standards folder for that project and use that template to create all new drawings for that project. Reference templates are an alternate workflow which are attached per project if desired.
Yeah.
Cool. And then
so the problem with having a template per project is it makes it so that I can't use the quick new options. All right, so if I come up here and I just hit this plus, it's going to start a new drawing using the default template. And if that template is different than the project template, then I have to be aware of that sort of thing. All right, so that's, I can't set this button up to create a template based, I suppose. Well, I was just looking at this, so maybe y'all have an idea of what this is, because I never really paid attention to this. What is this project file search path? Perhaps that could have some help with that. All right, so
this for missing XREFs.
yeah, but I have no idea when it would be used on a project. From what I understand is for, hey, we have multiple people working on this drawing and their drives are mapped differently, or something along those lines, but I don't know. Yeah, Joel, absolutely. Sheet set manager can do that. So if I go into my sheet set manager here, let me just go create a new one here real quick. All right, so if I click on new sheet, I can have that go to the project template. And that's a perfect example of when a project template makes sense, is if you're going to be using Sheet Set Manager to create your sheets, because you can set that template up to have the title block in it, or to have the layout tab with the title block XREF'd in or inserted, or however you like. So yeah, absolutely. It's a great example point.
And then Brian is following up with your thing. If you have an XREF that is stored in a different place than the saved path, you configure that and assign that for the drawing as an alternate place to look for the XREF.
Right, so that's back to this project search path. And from what I understand, you would, add a project. So I would call this one, I don't know, Brian. I've never actually done this. This is the first time I've ever done this. And then you could add paths and you browse to someplace. And then in the drawing itself, you could do project name, I think is what it was. And then you would call this one Brian. And then it would look for that Brian, and I canceled out of that. I should have left that in there. All right, under the project name. All right, so add Brian. And then it would look in the paths that I add underneath Brian for the XREFs for the Brian project. And that's my understanding of how it works. But like I said, I haven't played around with it. As a company-wide CAD manager, I don't see me setting this for a project at all. I think this would have to be very project specific. So. Yeah, it looks clunky, Brian. Just use relative paths for your XREFs.
Just use relative path.
Is this
Dropbox?
old or is this new? Because I've never actually noticed this before. And I think maybe I've just kind of glanced over it all the time.
It's been there a while. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
a long while.
Yeah. I just have never paid any attention to it till just today. So. All right, we got anything else, Brian?
Question from Joel here. It says, have you done anything with info drainage and moving data back and forth from Civil 3D?
Yeah, I don't have any of the new stuff that came over with the acquisition of whatever that company was. I can't think of it off the top of my head, where info drainage comes from. I don't have any of that software, so no, I haven't done anything with that yet. So I have nothing to add on that particular topic, unfortunately. I'd love to get into it, but I just don't have access to it. My understanding is it's fairly pricey, but I haven't even Innovice. Thank you. Thank you, Justin. Innovice is the company I was thinking of. But I haven't looked into it yet. So yeah, John, my understanding is you still have to pay for the Innovice tools.
That's not.
I mean, Autodesk has to make some money off of their $1 billion acquisition.
It was only $1 billion, not a few.
That's my understanding. It was $1 billion. What do you mean, John? It'll go nowhere. Come on, they've done so much with like the storm and sanitary analysis and the hydroflow. Okay, never mind. You're probably right.
Yeah. Sorry, Joel. No answer for you on that one.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Brian's like, hey, let's all get together and start a next gen stormwater analysis
Right?
company. Then
So
let Autodesk buy us.
So I was looking at the hydroflow stuff, and that was purchased from I think the guy's first name was Chris. I think his last, I don't remember what his last name was. Right, but Autodesk bought that software from him, and I was looking at it, it's like, you know what, it'd be really nice if they updated this, and are there options out there? So I went out there and I was looking, and that same guy basically redeveloped that same program, but with updates better than what Autodesk has. I was like, oh, you're shit.
Funny. Oh, that's funny. Sometimes that stuff amazes me. Like Autodesk Point Layout was a guy based out of Colorado, worked for a contractor. He got tired of doing a chore, so he started creating this tool. And then he's like, "Oh wow, I can make money in this tool. I'll start selling it." And then Autodesk bought him out. It was just like, wow, one guy did this and bought him out for quite a few $1 million. It's like, yeah, there you go. Just sit down and write an ad and you program in the background.
Yeah. So SyncPack, very similar. The guy was I think he worked for NASA for a while, and then he lived in Colorado Springs. He went back to Colorado Springs and was working for his dad's surveying company, and was really disappointed in the lack of functionality in Civil 3D for surveyors, And so he started adding in all of these tools for his company to be able to use. And then he started selling it. And so that's where SyncPack came from. So his name was Richard Sinkovic. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But John, can't think of his name. He's taken over. Mayo, you know who it is. What's his name? Like Jeff Mishler. Thank you. All right, so it took over for him. He was a partner before Richard passed away.
We love that. One of the biggest structural engineering analysis programs out there was a guy's college thesis. He realized it worked well, so he kept developing it. And this is Ashraf Habibullah. And it's now a $1 billion company. And it's just like, wow, it was his college thesis. And he said, hey, I can take this somewhere.
Yeah, that's
Do some
awesome.
structural analysis out of this. All right, so one last question. It's not really a question. It's more like somebody's trying to volunteer you for something, Brian. It said, could you open up several drawings on your side and try to go back and forth between them to see if you experience any delays? I'm assuming this is back to the first question on the command line issue. And he's like,
Right.
if no,
Yeah, I can do that.
that's this for all of us.
Let's see. We'll open up all these drawings here. They're all read only, so it's going to have to ask me for each one. These are just a bunch of the tutorial drawings. So they're not big drawings, but I can open up a lot of them.
Sure to play with the level of detail while testing as well.
That's true. That's true. And level of detail is a system setting, not a drawing setting, from what if I remember correctly.
I hope so, because otherwise that's a lot of drawings you got to turn this on. See, I just want to point out that if more questions had been asked, we don't have to sit here and wait for 5 minutes for Brian and watch Brian open up an excessive amount of drawings. We could be actually answering real questions. Because there's no offense, Sean, but I did save this for to be the last question, even though, or last comment, even though it did come up a long time ago.
Yeah, I shouldn't have opened that many.
That's okay. We have no questions, so this is
Right?
perfect.
So how's the weather down there in Holden Beach?
It was crazy, like rain and wind last night. Like there was over an inch of rain in like an hour. Blew everything
Wow.
all over the place. Blew everything all over the place. Went crazy.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any delay switching between these.
And Tom says it's quite likely a command didn't quite finishing before people switched to
All right,
drawings.
so let's turn
can you
on
do
the
a-
level of detail.
And can you do some sort of long command and then try switching drawings while it's still like trying to process that command? That's what Tom thinks it is.
I'm not seeing anything. I don't know if I'm doing this right. I'm just using Control Tab to switch between drawings now, and things seem to be fairly okay. Detail off. I'm not noticing any appreciable difference between having level of detail on or off. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Brian, it could have been a large surface in there. So we tried. Now I have to close all of these. Okay, let me give you a tip. So let's see.
Control Alt Delete. Fast.
Right? So if I want to close all the other drawings, I can actually right click on a drawing file, tab up here at the top, and I can close all other drawings. And then I just have to hit no a lot. And the nice thing about this is it asks me for each one before it starts closing them. So it doesn't close it and then go to the next one and then ask me. So I can get rid of all the prompts right here at the beginning, and then it goes through and closes them all. So close all other. Great command.
In the command line prompt, which is just close all.
Yeah, close all works as well. I think that you can do close all other as well. Yeah. It's there on the command line. Everything's in the command line practically.
That's funny as a
Uh-huh.
Revit user, there are times I'm like, God, I wish I could just type this command in, because I know what it's called, but I forget where the stupid button is.
Yeah.
Well, on that note,
All
our
right.
audience
Well,
was
I guess that's it.
our audience was slacking, so I guess we're gonna finish 8 minutes early.
All right. Wow, we had quite a few folks and just that few questions. People must be picking up this Civil 3D stuff pretty good then.
Or they're just all thinking towards next week when they get to have a day off.
Then maybe that's it. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. I'll be posting this up on YouTube. So Civil 3D Plus is the YouTube channel, and we'll see you all then. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Brian.